Welcome to the Author's Table event. It is so named because every author gets to take home the table he or she is seated at. Times are hard, so we give what we can. Every table has an author. Every table has an author. Will the authors joining us this evening please stop scribbling notes and stand? Oh, come on, let's give them some more adoration. This is your author. Be kind. If you're lucky, maybe one will autograph your dinner roll. And yes, that is a euphemism. After talking to publishers and editors day in, day out, your authors welcome the opportunity to chat with actual human beings. So happy schmoozing. If we could call up the Elmo so I could share some cartoons. Beautiful day. We expect a beautiful weekend this Saturday and Sunday at the Tucson Festival of Books, where every author gets to keep the table, where every author is loved and adored, where every author looks forward to chatting with their fellow human beings. Let us pause here to give thanks to two ladies who have worked tirelessly on this event. Will Sarah Cohen and Jan O'Brien please stand? Sarah and Jan are the Thelma and Louise of the Author's Table Committee. U of A President Shelton wishes he could be here tonight. With a state budget in mind, he's happy to be anywhere. In his stead, we have an impressive member of the President's team. The Vice President for Student Affairs, she built the $60 million Student Union bookstore with just a Home Depot credit card and a Builder Bob how-to book. A modest person, Dr. Vito manages a $132 million budget and yet did not park half as close as you did to this event. Please welcome Dr. Melissa Vito.
Thank you. What a great night. I want to welcome you on behalf of President Shelton, his whole team, and the University of Arizona community. Thank you for attending the Tucson Festival of Books. I also want to take this opportunity to thank a few people who have created what I consider to be kind of the best of the Tucson community, people coming together to do something great and to create really an oasis at a time of national uncertainty, you know, kind of a state budget that's a little twitchy right now. And to imagine that this is only the second annual Tucson Festival of Books. I feel like this has been an event that's gone on for decades. So I want to thank Brenda and Bill Viner, Frank Farias, John Humanak, Bruce Beach, a cast of thousands of volunteers who will be here over the next couple of days, greeting what I bet will be over 100,000 people who will come to campus, because I feel like I've talked to 10,000 people this week who are coming. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful few days. And I don't know about you, but I'm personally really looking forward to the 10th annual Tucson Festival of Books, the 25th anniversary Festival of Books, and to know that this whole event will do everything we can to support literacy in this community. So thank you all. Welcome to our community.
Thank you, Dr. Vito. We love the University of Arizona, don't we? Yeah! And you know, the university's going through some hard times, but I have faith that they will endure. Just yesterday, I heard President Shelton address this issue specifically when he said, and I quote, "We are resilient. We'll get through this. Our faculty is hoarding fruits and nuts. Our deans are dismantling Old Main for firewood. I'm building a shelter out of used textbooks. Our students will be bartering for credits with shells and beads. We are thinking outside of the box. We are the University of Arizona." Go Cats! On a side note, we regret that an author, Larry McMurtry, will not be here due to health problems. We wish him a speedy recovery. And yes. And I was just handed a note earlier this afternoon. Apparently, J.D. Salinger canceled as well. If I may have the Elmo up again. For bookaholics, the Tucson Festival of Books is your Burning Man meets Woodstock moment. 2 days of peace, love, and eye strain. In this, our second year, we are expecting more than 50,000 people, not including pigeons and snowbirds. But we know why you're here tonight. The chance of a lifetime. Free parking at the University of Arizona. This festival has some upgrades this year. I want to mention 5 of them. This year, books will be at the signing areas. It's the authors who will be hard to find. We want to keep you on your toes. Second, the C-SPAN Civics bus will be here Saturday at 10 a.m. The bookmobile on steroids. We are so excited to have a bus here in Tucson that is on time. Third, we have poets and authors from Mexico this year. Book Festival security has been assigned to watch the doors for Sheriff Joe Arpaio. I often wonder what his life would have been like if he'd gotten more oxygen at birth. To our friends from Mexico, bienvenidos a Tucson, mis amigos. Yes, fourth, we have 170 exhibitors. And fifth, if you have an iPhone, this year the Star produced an app for the Tucson Book Festival. Yeah, listen, if any of you have trouble with this, simply ask any 12-year-old. They'll help you figure it out. Now, I know you're looking forward to the festival, as am I. Hi, I'm Dave. I'm a bookaholic. Maybe you are too. Here are the 7 signs. Do you have more books on your nightstand than the Library of Congress? Did you ever buy a used copy of a book at a used bookstore simply because you thought it looked lonely? When you were a kid, admit it, you were more excited about the bookmobile than the Batmobile. Fourth, have you ever called your librarian your enabler? Do you own more bookcases than forks? Do you think that the great Kindle debate is more riveting than Dancing with the Stars? Me too. Seventh, you definitely know you're a bookaholic when the film crew for Hoarders is at your front door. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're a bookaholic, there is no cure, only binging. And that's what the next 2 days are. Your Lost Weekend, Bibliopalooza 2010. First order of business, I'd like to read a proclamation. Congressional recognition for the 2010 Tucson Festival of Books, made possible by the Honorable Gabrielle Giffords of Arizona. Yeah. Because I like you, I'm going to edit this. Madam Speaker, I rise today to recognize the 2010 Tucson Festival of Books. Blah, 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 blah. Once you learn to read, Frederick Douglass told us, you will be forever free. The Tucson Festival of Books plays an important role in fulfilling that promise. The 2010 Festival of Books is sponsored by the University of Arizona, the Arizona Daily Star, and the Diamond Children's Medical Center. The festival would not be possible without their hard work and dedication, blah, 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 blah. On behalf of a grateful community, I thank and commend them for bringing us this incredible gift. Gabrielle Giffords, Member of Congress. We do have some impressive authors with us this weekend. If I might have the Elmo up, please. We have the man who never once has gotten into an angry exchange with anyone, which is ironic because Merle Regal loves crosswords. Thank you, thank you. It's just going to get worse. We have Dan Balls of the Washington Post, Meet the Press, and Washington Week. Look up the words political junkie in the dictionary. There's a picture of Dan Balls. Here they are, the eyes of insight, depth, and integrity. We have Tucsonan Michael Blake, who wrote of his experience competing on Dancing with the Stars, Dancing with the Wolves. We have the sage of the sagebrush set, Baxter Black, who travels with his own entourage of mustache groomers. Wait, a little bit. One there. Maybe one there. Okay. We have Society's child, Janice Ian. Yay! I'd like this on our website, in her own words. O Magazine calls the new Janice Ian autobiography hugely readable, and it's not just because of a nice font. We have with us back again this year, J.A. Jance, who knows 117 ways to hide a body. We have with us a guest. Oh, this guy, I'm sorry. He's a former world champion freestyle skier, a film producer, an actor, a stuntman, and an author. Frank Bedore's probably handsome too and tall. I hate him. He's the one multitasking at your table even as I speak. We have the author who said, "Never in a million years did I imagine I'd ever get my fiction published, let alone have my books become New York Times bestsellers." No, it's not Sarah Palin. I'm talking about the author of great legal thrillers, Philip Margolin. Yeah, Philip! Good stuff. We have, I love this troublemaker, Lenore Skenazy, author of the book Free Range Kids, giving our children the freedom we had without going nuts with worry. I worry. I have 3 children, one of each. By the way, I hope you bring your kids to this festival. They will have a blast. We have John Sheska. For those of you who don't know, Sheska is Polish for stinky cheese man. By the way, he has a nonprofit literacy group, a program, for boys and men called Guys Read, which he created to boost literacy amongst boys, as well as hopefully shift society's attitudes toward masculinity. Guys Read. Yeah! And last but not least, we have the author, Too Many to Mention. We are so grateful you are here with us for the Tucson Festival of Books. Thanks to each and every one of you for being here. Now, who made this wonderful event possible? 2 gentlemen are going to come up here and tell us who made this event possible. Get ready for a sponsor marathon think-a-thon. Please welcome Bill Viner and Bruce Beach.
First, hi Bill. Sure, I'm first. First, I want to say, Sarah and Jan, great job. Fabulous night tonight. And Fitz, you're special, Fitz. That's all I can say, you're special. And Bill, you know, you used to be one of my favorite people till you came up with this idea about the book festival. Now I have 3 jobs. Your turn.
Bruce, you're looking pretty dapper. Can you hear me on this? Yeah. Oh. We're going to hug each other. Bruce, you're looking pretty dapper tonight. Julie must still be picking out your clothes. How many of these Garcia ties do you own, Bruce?
Lots.
Anyway, this year we have added a number of new things to the festival. We've added the Ventana Medical System Science Stage and Zone with science authors, projects, and exhibits for kids. The Pima County Library Nuestras Raíces Stage, celebrating Mexican-American authors, arts, and culture. An international venue will host poets and writers, and the Lindley Lopez Literary Circus with performances based on Alice in Wonderland and the greatest stories ever told.
That sounds great, Bill. Did you know that the Research Corporation and Helios Foundation also sponsored the science venue? And did you know that last year at our inaugural event, we raised over $200,000 that went to literacy in Southern Arizona?
Bruce, I was here last year. Matter of fact, I think I haven't gone home since last year. Actually, I've been sleeping in Chris Kopak's office. Plus, as Fitz said, I don't want to give up my UA parking space. Anyway, this year we hope to raise more than $200,000.
You know, with the support that we've gotten this year, the festival, I believe, is going to continue to be the catalyst that's going to energize this community to focus on literacy and the problems that we have in literacy. Obviously, we could not give back to the community without the tremendous support from the University of Arizona. I don't think any of you can really realize the kind of support and energy that they give us, the facilities people, the bookstore people, and the whole University of Arizona campus. They play an integral role in the success of the festival. So, go Cats!
I just figured out why I couldn't read this.
You had glasses in your bag, Bill.
The Arizona Daily Star is not only a great media partner, but their talented team has spent countless hours creating the festival database, updating the website, putting together the program insert in your bags, and hosting their own venue on the mall. Check out the new Festival iPhone app.
What's an iPhone?
What's an app?
Oh.
We think that's funny.
The Diamond Children's Hospital at the University Medical Center is our presenting sponsor. And their dedication to our community is fantastic. And their support for this event has been unbelievable. It's made it possible for the book festival to become the largest literary event to be held in Arizona. And drum roll, please, Bill. Now it is one of the largest literary events in the country.
We also want to thank the Pima County Library and their incredible staff, Tucson Medical Center, McDonald's, UA Bookstore, Arizona Public Media, Caliber Group, Madden Media.
And two of our other major sponsors are the William and Mary Ross Foundation and the Literacy for Life Coalition. I'd also like to thank our contributing sponsors, including my own firm, Beach Fleischman, Pepper Viner, Ventana Medical Systems, Floresco Lighting and Signs, Bookman's Entertainment Exchange, Target, Cox Communications, 92.9 The Mountain, 93.7 KRQ, Marshall Foundation, Alpha Graphics, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Wells Fargo, Research Corporation, Carondelet, Big Speak, Arizona Party Rental, BBVA Compass, Mesh Clark and Rothschild, Picor, Cade Industries, and Deacon Cini McDonald and Yetwin.
Is that, is that your client list?
I hope.
Next, we want to take some time to acknowledge the Founders Committee and all the steering committee members.
You know, these people have been working year-round to put on this festival.
Even in June?
In July, too.
You mean you and I didn't track down and invite all 400 authors by ourselves?
No.
What about the 1,000 volunteers?
No.
The 170 exhibitors?
No.
The hotel rooms? The food vendors?
Hundreds of hotel rooms.
Okay, hundreds. Food vendors? Entertainers? Did we do any of that? We did all. Didn't we do that?
We made a concerted effort to streamline this evening and make sure that the authors get home early and get plenty of rest.
Yeah, they're laughing. What are they doing up there? And we want to make sure Scott Simon and his wife get back early to their room.
They have kids.
Yep, 2 girls, and along with their sitter, they're running up that hotel tab as we speak.
So this is your line too, Bill.
Thank you. Bruce and I drew the short straws. That's why our mugs are on this big screen.
And the rest of the founders are sitting out there having a nice glass of wine, relaxing, and watching us make fools of ourselves.
You know, I've watched Fitz with this Elmo, and I just love this Elmo. Bruce was supposed to say that he was going to make childhood photos available of the other founders members, but there was a small glitch. We couldn't get them on the screen. So while Bruce introduces them, I'm going to draw them. So I'm going to have this Elmo thing on. Of course, I've had a little help. Is Humanek starting to squirm over there yet? Well, John, you got Fitz doing editorials now. You might need a new cartoonist.
And the reason I missed my line is because Bill forgot his last line, and so it was all kind of out of turn. But Bill is going to now draw Brenda, who is his lovely wife, and she's kind of our, you ready to go? Okay. She's kind of our ever-ready bunny. She's always on the move, always doing things, you know. Whenever we need anything done, she's the one to do it. Always does it with a smile, always with a kind word. She's just an ambassador of the festival to everybody. Bill, she's much cuter than that. Come on. But that's Brenda.
I think we ought to make her stand up.
Yeah, would you stand up, Brenda? Kind of feel like Fitzsimmons or the U.S. Brown guy, Bill?
Oh, yeah, that's my line.
Well, you keep drawing.
Okay.
So now, John, Bill's going to draw John Humanek. And John is the editor of the Star. And I have to tell you that not only does he lend his name to this event, but he's there with us all the way, working hand in hand. He's an extremely great contributor to the event himself. And does he really have that much hair, Bill? That's pretty good. But anyways, keep it real, Bill. Let's go to the next one. Our friend and comrade, Frank Farias of the U of A bookstore. He's Mr. U of A. He is, always has a smile on his face, always has a can-do attitude. There's nothing that ever can stop him. He's fantastic, and we appreciate every bit of you, Frank. Put that big smile on him. He's always got that big smile. There we go. Great job. Fitz, you're in trouble.
Where are we on this, Bruce?
Right there. We should hang these things in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
We'll forget that. We're probably not going to do that. So let's move on.
Okay. I'd like to thank the steering committee, and so I'd like you all to stand up as I read your name, and if we could please hold the applause to the end. These people have worked really, really hard. For the authors committee, Nancy Ledabora and Halid Woodhams. For the authors table, Sarah Cohen and Jan O'Brien. For the children's area, Barbara Kiernan and Ann Parker. For the exhibitors, Rick and Jan Kleiner. And for entertainment, Gina Bacaluso.
And my favorite, Randy and Shelby Collier, food.
Hospitality, Stephen Holly Schenitzer. Marketing, Carrie Stratford and Daryl Durham. Operations and site planning, Gary Siemens, Lee Baumgardner, and Andy Anderson. Volunteers, Cece Derrickson, Peggy DeWald. They organize 1,000 volunteers. It's just unbelievable.
Didn't we get all those volunteers?
Yeah, you didn't get all those volunteers. Website, internet, program insert is John Bolton, Rob Weisner, and Debbie Kornmiller. And administration is Danielle Short. Let's give them a great round of applause.
You know, and just one more time, I'm not sure we really gave due to the other founder members. I mean, they really do a great job. Let's give them a big hand again also. And we also don't want to forget all the volunteers who are on all the committees.
They're the ones in the gold t-shirts that you're going to see tomorrow.
It's incredible to think that this weekend there will be over 400 writers on the U of A campus participating in more than 300 presentations, panel discussions, and workshops.
And so tonight we honor and acknowledge all the authors, poets, screenwriters, and journalists contributing to the Tucson Festival of Books. They are the ones that bring words and imagination to life. From Alice Hoffman to Phil Caputo, to John Sheska, to Jonathan Tropper, to Victor Lodato, to C.J. Box. We are awed by your passion, talent, and achievements. You will entertain and educate us with your wit, thoughts, and ideas, and you do it without expectation or remuneration, a wonderful gift to the Tucson community. You
think our timing's off?
A little bit.
Really? They're doing this for free?
Yes, Bill, they are doing this for free. And some of them, like J.A. Jantz, Charles DeLitt, Luis Uria, Michael Blake, were here last year, and they've encouraged their friends and fellow writers to take part in the festival, and we thank them as well.
We certainly do not take you for granted, and we appreciate all you do.
And so this is what you've been waiting for. We thought we'd end this with a poem.
This is certain to be a literary favorite. It's a good idea, Bruce.
So watch out, Rod McCune. Books are magic, are fun, whether sick or in the sun.
That's my line, Bruce.
Okay. Well, you read the next one then.
No, I'm going to read this one. Books are magic, books are fun, whether sick or in the sun.
With words that make us cry out loud or softly say, we are so proud.
Characters that glow with heart, yet others that are not so smart.
Others that romp and play, yet have so many things to say.
With words that never seem to end, an author is our very best friend.
So it's my pleasure now to introduce our presenting sponsor, Adeline Clemenson from Diamond Children's Hospital at the University Medical Center. Welcome, Adeline. And he won't draw you, so don't worry.
Well, good evening, everyone, and I'm here to say that Diamond Children's Medical Center at the University Medical Center is very pleased to sponsor this event. Diamond Children's has been a dream of ours for a long, long time, and it will serve the children of our community very well. And thank you to a generous gift of the Diamond family. We are going to be opening the doors of Diamond Children's in the early fall. And so we not only take care of We not only take care of the health and well-being of the children of our community, but literacy is a very important part of that to us. And as a community partner, we extend our sponsorship to this very important endeavor for the literacy program of Southern Arizona. Thank you.
Thank you, Adeline. And Bill and Bruce, thank you, Harold and Kumar. It's been a long haul, it's been a long trek, but we are almost to the main event. It is almost time for the rock star of the evening. Can I have the Elmo up, please? Scott Simon is a master storyteller. If Pluto had a news bureau, he would have been there. He's the kind of journalist that has luggage tags marked anywhere there is a story. El Salvador, Sarajevo, Afghanistan, Iraq, Flagstaff, Arizona, don't forget Winona, Kingman, Barstow, San Bernardino. Scott Simon's been there. Mr. Simon has been a writer for PBS, BBC, NBC, CNN, ESPN. Overachiever, at this point in his life, the man needs an RN. Sports Illustrated called his personal memoir, Home and Away, extraordinary. Jackie Robinson and the Integration of Baseball was Barnes & Noble's Sports Book of the Year. His novel, Pretty Birds, the story of two teenage girls in Sarajevo during the siege, received rave reviews. His novel, Windy City, is a political comedy set in the Chicago City Council. In an email to Mr. Simon, your host, Dave Fitzsimmons, sucked up shamelessly to our guest by praising Windy City for the poetic descriptions, the well-crafted dialogues, the rich devotion to authenticity, the humor, and the very story itself. Like an Ed Sullivan juggling act, Mr. Simon keeps the plates spinning in the air on every page. Windy City is a marvelous read. Scott Simon has a mixed marriage. He's a Cubs fan. She's a Yankees fan. They have two daughters, Elise and Lena. His next book is due next summer? This summer. A short book about adoption, including a nod to Tucsonite Tabor McCollum, called Baby, We Were Meant for Each Other, which I think is true of this book festival and Mr. Scott Simon. Baby, we were made for each other. Come on up here and tell us what's on your mind. Mr. Scott Simon!
I don't get to use this machine, I guess. You know what? Thank you, David. I must say, I was, as Bill and Bruce were talking, I understood a little bit more why it was so difficult to get Alec Baldwin and Steve Martin together for the Oscars. Thank you very much. And it's wonderful to be here. May I introduce my wife, Caroline Simon, sitting at the front table. There was a time once I had to give a speech, I guess it was in Chicago, and I couldn't talk because I had laryngitis. And Caroline took my notes and text and delivered the speech, and to this day it's the most popular appearance that I've ever made. And the first line of her remarks were just extraordinary. She said, "Good evening. Today is a wonderful occasion. My husband has laryngitis." Unfortunately, it seems to be working pretty well tonight. In addition to all of the other things I have to thank my wife for, I don't mind mentioning tonight, I have her to thank for the fact that she made me change my slacks before I came here. I was about to appear before you wearing purple pants, or as the salesman described them, aubergine. My wife thought it was possible you wouldn't pay attention to anything that I said. It occurred to me as we were sitting here tonight, this might also be Sheriff Arpaio's new uniform. You know, there's one thing just to pick up before I get to the burden of my remarks, and I hope they're not much of a burden. To pick up on something that David's been saying, he's been saying quite a lot. I think one of the things authors with children might profitably talk about here in some kind of workshop is, where do you write? Because you can live in Blenheim Palace, and we don't, and young children will track you down wherever you're trying to write, which is why a significant part of all of my books have been written in coffee shops that name brands will go without mentioning, because gosh knows they get mentioned a lot, and public libraries, I'm pleased to say. David mentioned that we have a book coming out in a few months on adoption. Our two children are from China, Elise and Lena. And it was, I guess, when I was working on Windy City, we just had Elise at that particular point. Lena hadn't come into our lives. We went to the Georgetown Public Library in Washington, D.C. They have a wonderful children's room on top. And we read some books to Elise and sat in the beanbag chairs and, I think played with a couple of the puppets there and everything. And eventually Caroline and Elise left. And Caroline said, "Darling, why don't you write here? It's very nice. There's nobody else here." So I sat in a little chair and began to write. After about an hour or so, a woman came up to me and said, "Sir, do you have a child here?" I said, well, you should mention it. You know, my wife and I we spent a lot of time playing with our child and reading the book here, but they left, and it was just so quiet, I decided to do some writing. "Sir, you cannot be here without a child." I said, "Well, I was telling you I was here with a child. I was just there before, and there was a man behind me who was sleeping on the radiator." And he got up and he said, "Yeah, I saw him with the child too. He was playing with the kid here and she was Chinese." Which means no matter how many articles the New York Times does about couples that adopt from China, it doesn't reach everybody. She said, "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Sir, don't make me call security." So I left. 1 week later, I'm not so pleased to say, well, a little bit pleased to say, the Georgetown Public Library burned down. I think we can account for my whereabouts, though, otherwise, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to talk about storytelling tonight and the quality of storytelling, which is what brings us here. I have to explain that it's under some strain in this new age. And I will explain that by saying that this is not the copy of the speech that I brought out here. That was in a folder that got wet when something spilled on it in the airplane, and I put it in the mesh pouch in front of me on the airplane, and that's where I left it. But we're living in a new age, because I was able to call people who work for us, and they were able to find a copy on the desktop, and they were able to, email it and send it. So that's the one thing that's good about a new age, about the new age we're living in. The other thing is that we landed here, and as soon as I zipped open my briefcase and realized that I didn't have a copy of the speech, I began to panic a bit. So there were text messages back and forth, emails back and forth, other people text messaging me. There's some people that I had to do interviews for. And I was on the phone and doing umpteenth interview and talking to people, and I said something to the effect that, well, I'm with my family, so I'd like to avoid an interview at that time, something like that. And my wife said, "Oh, yes, darling, it is so wonderful that we can be together as a family and watch you text message." And that is the new age we're living in. Look, I'm going to talk about storytelling because I believe in stories, not just professionally, but personally. I believe that stories are as basic to being a human being as love, and maybe for the same reason. Stories assure us that life has meaning. It's not just bare survival. Once upon a time, the very phrase tells us that we can leave footsteps, fingerprints, and memories. Stories make us want to turn the page, to start over, to take that next breath. The most enduring piece of literature ever written in the English language, at least so far, aren't just the English language and the plays of William Shakespeare and the Bible. After all, they're a bunch of stories. Kings and queens, serfs and slaves, saints and witches, mysteries, intrigues, plots, jokes, despair, fates and exaltation. Will Romeo and Juliet be together? Will Moses lead his people to the promised land? Was Macbeth possessed by genius or insanity? Was Abraham or Moses? Does Mercutio make you laugh? Does Job, when he says to a friend, "Try silence, for you it would pass as wisdom"? Before the accounts of the lives of Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Moses, Deborah, or Solomon became taken as parables that are supposed to enlighten and instruct us, they were stories. Stories dripping with blood, tests, doubts, loves, rejections, certitudes, and surprises. What's on the other side of that mountain? How do we get through this fire flood? Does she love me? Does he even know I'm alive? Who lay down with whom, and who did they beget? What's the right thing to do? Think of certifiably great paintings. Why do the Mona Lisa or Rembrandt's The Night Watch or almost anything by Toulouse-Lautrec fascinate and endure? It's because they invite us into a story. Like, what makes that lady smile? Why do people still watch Casablanca, The Godfather, The Great Dictator? They're great stories. Now, I tell stories to our daughters at night. We also read them stories and let them watch stories carefully on television and on the web. But there's something our daughters enjoy about a story in person and on demand. Now, right now, I tell them stories that feature a kind of repertory of characters that center around a little mischievous boy named Ralph and his goody two-shoes sister Patty. They have a friend named Duncan the Dolphin who lives in Lake Michigan. Then there's Beulah, a good witch who takes them on rides on her broom around the skyscrapers or the Eiffel Tower. There's Scully, a skeleton who sleeps in Patty and Ralph's closet and whom they dress up in their father's old clothes to bring him to school for show and tell and for science class, because there's nothing like a friendly skeleton to show you that the knee bone is in fact connected to the shin bone. And there's also a character named Ethel Mermaid. I like that too. Who lives in Lake Michigan. And she clambers onto the beach and over to their apartment building and bursts into their kitchen to sing, "You'll be swell, you'll be great." Now, Ralph once decided that he was going to pour every box of lime jello that he could find into the Chicago River. Patty said, "Ralph, you cannot turn the river into jello. I am just so embarrassed." But you know what? Everybody in town enjoyed bouncing on the springy lime jello. Ralph tells his perfect big sister Patty, "See, I told you, I had it all figured out." Now, my wife says that she sometimes overheard our 6-year-old daughter, Elise, tell her friends about these stories in the schoolyard the next day. And when some other little boy or girl is agog about a dancing skeleton or a lake turned into jello, Elise assures them, "For real. That's for real." So stories are real forces in our lives, even when they're not for real. Now, something's been happening in my Patty and Ralph stories over the past couple of months. Elise has started making requests and suggestions. If I begin, "It was about this time at night," she'll sometimes say, "Make it morning." If I say, "Okay, it was winter," she'll go, No, make it summer." She enjoys being my co-conspirator in these stories as much as she enjoys being the audience. Now, we hold children close and think we ought to teach them something while we're here. But when they start talking back, we realize they're the ones that teach us by making us look at the world afresh. So our daughters have reminded me, stories are wild animals. You may give them birth, but they become their own creation. They don't stick to your script. Stories feed off the things they find in the underbrush, and they play and mate with abandon. They move from your mind into other minds. They grow into creatures that you may never have imagined. Now, I report real-life stories. I broadcast essays that tell stories. I write novels that tell stories. And I don't know how many times I've encountered people who say, in the nicest way, your story meant so much to me because it showed me how, and then they finish the sentence in some way that guarantees me they got it absolutely wrong. Except they can't get it absolutely wrong. Even if it collides pretty clearly with something that I thought I said very clearly, they're not wrong, because stories are art. They're not instruction. Instructions are useful and specific, but stories can be maddeningly useless, which doesn't mean that they're unnecessary or amorphous. They grow and they change with an audience. Now, an instruction manual can tell you purportedly how to put together a crib, although I don't mind telling you the one my wife and I put together has always had this one piece we could never figure out what to do with. Some of you have that experience too. We should get all those pieces together sometime, see what we can make. But take the basic elements of that crib and put them into a story, and they can become a bridge, a skyscraper, a city, a road. It just depends on how you arrange your building blocks. And as we speak here about literacy tonight, those building blocks are words. Sir Tom Stoppard says, words are innocent, neutral, precise, standing for this, describing that, meaning the other. So if you look after them, you can build bridges across the incomprehension and chaos. But when they get their corners knocked off, they're no good anymore. I don't think that writers are sacred, says Sir Tom, but words are. They deserve respect. If you get the right ones in the right order, you can nudge the world a little or make a poem which children will speak for you when you're dead. Words aren't only how we speak or write, they become how we think. They become how we connect the thigh bone to the shin bone. Not long ago, many people thought we'd be growing up in a progressively nonlinear world, freed from the thought constraints of Gutenberg, Shakespeare, and Cervantes. They thought that images would become the sum total of information. Thoughts would flare, flicker, and connect the amoebas, not roll heavily on treads and tracks freighted down with words. They thought that stories would be replaced by sensation, narrative by bytes. Today, with the advantage of 10 years hindsight maybe, we can see that, as so often happens with history, nothing turned out the way anyone expected it to. At this moment, and if only for a moment, it's words and stories that have begun to take on wings. People all over the world dispatch images from the streets of Tehran or Rangoon that can be opened by suburban 12-year-olds from Baltimore to Beijing to Belize, for that matter, to Belize, forgive me. But words and stories are sinking in and reaching out too. Netta, the young woman who was killed in Tehran last year, was not only an image. We saw the image of that young woman and we inferred a story about a young innocent girl killed by agents of a state without conscience and a system with no recourse. It was an image that at that point in events a few months ago had been fleshed out and needed to be fleshed out by thousands of stories and millions of words that were sent from the palms of people whose fingers were connected to their conscience. Newspapers and books printed in text on hard paper may be disappearing. There is that debate between books and Kindle. But words blinking on screens, unfettered by voices and seeping into minds, those are ascending right now. In this moment of technology, of instantaneous expression, it's reminded us of both the romance and the utility of language, words and stories. People just don't want nowadays or expect to merely consume and enjoy stories. They want to write their own. They want to share them with others. They expect to share them with others. An unshared story is a stone that sits on the heart. You get asked a lot what most memorable story you ever covered, and actually have an answer for that, the siege of Sarajevo in the 1980s. You'd land in a British military aircraft coming down through artillery fire. You'd be loaded onto a French Foreign Legion armored personnel carrier, a stubby, smelly, windowless crate that I'd call ugly, except it shielded us from sniper fire. So there's something very beautiful about that. And you could hear the bullets pinging against the walls like steel gnats trying to break in. The soldiers would sing, "We all live in the yellow submarine, a yellow submarine, yellow submarine." Engineer and I went through a checkpoint that was burrowed between sandbags, and as it was being patted down, I heard a young voice calling out in slangy American English, "Hi, my name is Irena, what's yours?" Saw a dark-haired teenage girl with short, chopped hair wearing an old Soviet Army jacket. I said, "Scott?" She said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Chicago." She said, "Oh, I love Chicago. Michael Jordan, Playboy, Pizza, Blues, Jazz, Scottie Pippen. I love Chicago Bulls." She had a friend next door, a young blonde woman. "Can we come visit you sometime? Me and my friend Amala here. We go out during the day to look for food, bring back water to everyone in our building. Can we visit you?" I said, "Sure, why not? We're staying at..." She said, "I know where you are staying, Scott Simon. There's only one place to stay here, the hotel with no windows. Do you think there is a Ritz here?" The soldiers had snapped open my briefcase, and I saw a small box of British Airways business class chocolates on top. And I tossed them over to Irena and Amala. A gesture that later, I gotta tell you, made me cringe. The image of an American doling out little chocolates. Irena and Amala showed up at our hotel the next day. They had vaulted through sniper fire and were smiling. Irena was holding 3 flowers for us. Who knows where she got them? As I learned, you could never give her anything without her giving something back. I said, "You know, you shouldn't have done something so dangerous just to see us." And Irena said, "There is a war here, Scott. If we wait until things aren't so dangerous, we'd never do anything." During the day, Sarajevo belonged to teenage girls because teenage boys were in the army. Parents and grandparents were cooped up by artillery fire. But as my wife and I will learn, you can't coop up teenage girls, much as we may want to try. And so they were the ones who took to the streets, took them over really. They dodged sniper fire, they scrounged for food, they braved cold and bombs to stand in water lines. And that's how we got to know the city and the war with Irena and Amala. Irena was turning 16 that week, and we did a story about a girl turning sweet 16 in a precinct of hell. About 2 girls smoking, laughing, drinking, and running for their lives. Irena told us how she and her family had been chased from their neighborhood by Serb paramilitaries. They ate grass and leaves, burned chairs a leg and an arm at a time to have heat. How the one time that she and her mother had permitted themselves to cry was when their family parrot stopped eating. Apparently, you can't tell a parrot, "Sorry, all the seed is gone, you'll have to get used to grass," or whatever else we can find. So on advice, they finally took him up to the top of the building and they let him go during a lull in the sniper fire, hoping that he would fly to the other side and find another family who could give him warmth and food. Irena kidded her mother about the way she cried when they released the parrot. She said, "You love that damn bird more than you love me." Her mother said, "Well, it's close, that's for sure." It wasn't for weeks after our stories had aired that Irena's mother told me that she and her daughter had been raped when they'd been turned out of their neighborhood. And she said to me, "In Chicago or London, it would be such a crisis. But here, that happened to so many. It's not much of a story." The siege of Sarajevo lasted 4 years. I kept going back. There was no school during that time, so Irena and Amala went to work for us as fixers. And I don't mind saying, I think we filled spaces in each other's hearts. About 10 years later, I wrote my novel, Pretty Birds, about 2 teenage girls during the siege of Sarajevo, and I named them Irena and Amala. Those names are tributes. The girls in the book are not the girls I knew. But the parrot that's the title character is based on the one that Irena and her mother let go from the top of a roof. This is one of the joys of literature. You can make certain that if life doesn't work out, the book can. And in my novel, I was able to deliver that parrot to safety. A small box of chocolates tossed over some sandbags, stories sent into the air. As the great Norman Corwin once wrote, here is a thought to fasten the throat. Who knows who may be listening, and where? My stepfather was a man named Ralph Newman. Ralph liked the stories. He was a merry and remarkable man, and in fact, a former minor league second baseman in this city. He played for the Tucson Toros. He broke his nose on a double play ball. Branch Rickey gave him a check for $500, which is more than money than he'd ever seen in his life, essentially to quit baseball. He wound up opening the Abraham Lincoln Bookshop in Chicago. Now, Ralph used to huff about that phrase, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And he said, does anybody really stop to figure out what you could do with 1,000 words? And rather in the way that my daughters and I trade and try out and finally create stories with each other, my stepfather and I spread out a napkin one night and we came up with this. One picture is worth 1,000 words. You give me 1,000 words and I can give you the Lord's Prayer, the 23rd Psalm, the Hippocratic Oath, a sonnet by Shakespeare, the preamble to the Constitution, Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, the last drafts of Martin Luther King's speech to the March on Washington, and the final entry of Anne Frank's diary. You give me 1,000 words, I wouldn't trade you for any picture on earth. Have a wonderful festival. Thank you very much.
Once again, thank you, Mr. Scott Simon. Thank you. And right now, we're going to make someone very, very happy. Is someone missing the keys to their Lexus? Hold on to these. They will be at the U of A bookstore. Well, Mr. Simon, thank you very much for your gracious, entertaining, heartfelt presentation. Thank you, each and every one of you, for attending, participating. We will see each and every one of you, won't we, tomorrow morning, here for the opening of the Tucson Festival of Books. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good night. Drive carefully. We're going to